This change to JobKeeper 2.0 to have the thresholds loosened so you only have to have your turnover 30% down for 1 quarter to qualify, as opposed to 2-quarter requirement they announced 2 weeks ago, turning the program from an $86 billion one to $101 billion. I said they would have to do this for Victoria when they announced the original JobKeeper 2.0 on July 21. But rather than come up with a Victorian-specific program to help the lockdown state, the extension can benefit every business nationally. The government argues this is the sensible way to do it, as most of the businesses to benefit will be Victorian anyway. And I guess they worry about shutdowns in other jurisdictions like New South Wales down the track. One option they could have explored, you could have gone for a 1-quarter qualification for Victoria, 2 for everywhere else, as there's a difference between a lockdown economy and one affected by downturn. Once the stage 4 lockdown was announced in Victoria last Sunday, the PM and Treasurer came to the view they just had to make this change, especially after the Treasurer gave the PM advice that 400,000 workers would be stood down in the Victorian lockdown and it would cost the national economy $10 to $12 billion. Of course, having the scheme hit every state helps you electorally as well. In places like Queensland, where Scott Morrison holds more than 2/3 of the seats, JobKeeper also arguably allows state governments to keep their borders shut. And Kieran, this morning in the Sunday Times in Perth, Mark McGowan, the WA Premier, is talking about keeping the borders shut until the middle of next year. But money can't last forever if the effects of this virus go on for years. The PM got offended when I asked him about the possibility he could have some form of JobKeeper until an election at the end of next year, when he made his original JobKeeper 2.0 announcement. Could we see some manifestation, depending on the virus, of this scheme until the next election? And is it possible that next election could be later next year, or are you committed to going a full term?
Andrew, politics is nowhere near my mind. I mean, I don't think Australians could care less when the next election was. And frankly, right now, it's got nothing factoring into my thinking, not at all. I know it may totally fascinate people who stand in this courtyard, at least some of them, but it is just not a factor. I mean, we've got an outbreak in Victoria and people are dying, and you're asking me questions about when the next election is. I think we need to focus on what the real issues are here, and it's not when the next election is.
Let's see if I'm still playing that grab in the second half of next year. Now, Josh Frydenberg and the PM said on Friday that the Commonwealth had now stumped up $300 billion of balance sheet support, including $200 billion of which is direct support, and compared it to the state's $45 billion. Probably a fair point. Scott Morrison, it is true too, told the National Cabinet on Friday that everyone needed to pull their weight with the economic support. But could the federal government assistance have been better targeted and not quite as large? Well, here is what one state government source said to me of the PM's approach, which shows some of the tensions here, Kieran. The quote is, "The strategy with the feds is simple. When things are going well, it's because of them. When things aren't going well, it's someone else's fault."